spinal workout isn't something you hear too often, and we aren't just talking about the lower back here, but the whole spine. People may get some lower back work, but most of that is in static positions, and hardly anyone is training their neck. And so it's no surprise that upper trap pain and pain in the rhomboid area is so common. Well, today we are covering exercises for all areas. Hi, I'm Rob from AMR Physio, and if we look at working the back, there is a lot of focus on mobility, which is great. Our last video covered thoracic mobility, and it's something people should be adding into their week. However, we also need to focus on strengthening. Most people generally try to avoid lower back movements, which will just make it weaker over time and less resilient to certain positions. And unless you're playing sports, any exercises you are doing are in single straight line planes, missing out a lot of other directions and full range of motion. Those straight line movements are important, but there are loads of other muscles in the back which also need work. And with any of these areas, if you haven't done work on some of these muscles for a long time or gone into certain ranges, don't go crazy adding loads of weight. You'll have to start light and build up. So for the lower back, we're going to start with hyperextensions. You can use a machine for this, or you can use a gym ball. The main thing is that you're going down and then coming back up. When you are coming back up, you're trying to activate the erector spinal and the back muscles. So there's less focus here on using the glutes and the hamstrings. If you get quite good at this, you can start adding weights on. But if you do find this too hard, maybe just don't go into as much range to start with. But the idea is that you're going to build up the range that you are doing. The next we can do is side flexion on the hyperextension. And side flexion is just a movement that a lot of people miss in their exercises, but it's a really important movement to do, especially for that lower back. So with this, you want to lock your feet in, keeping your legs straight, and you drop into the side and then bringing yourself back up. Same guidance applies. You can add a weight to this if you want to make it harder, or you can just go into a bit less range if you want to make this easier. But again, really working to build into that full range over time. The third you can do on this is cable rotations. And rotations are another movement that just get missed out that nobody's doing, but there's so many back muscles that get involved when doing rotations. You can do this with a cable, you can do it with a band, but you're basically standing up straight. You're going to have the cable around chest high, have your arms straight out in front, and you're moving and turning from side to side to really get the focus on those back muscles. You'll get a bit of activation of the core as well, which is great, but really get it so you're getting the activation in the back muscle. Again, changing the weight to make it easier or harder, and changing the amount of range you go into depending on where you're at with this.
Next, you can do hanging pendulums. This is where you'll be hanging off a bar. You will move your legs to the side, hold for a second, slowly return and swing to the opposite side. This is really good for those side muscles in the lower back.
The next one for the lower back is Jefferson Curls. So this is going into more flexion and then bringing all the way up. A lot of people will try and avoid flexion movements because they think it's dangerous for the spine. It's not. Generally, we are designed to move in that way. However, if you're not used to this because you've avoided it for so long, don't just start lifting really heavy weights that you're not used to. Just start building up. It might be that you just start with body weight, and then you want to start getting used to adding loads gradually. The body will then become more resilient at doing this movement and stronger, so that when you do go to lift something off the floor normally, it's no problem for it because it's used to lifting weights. On the contrary, if you avoid this all the time and then you need to move into this position lifting a weight, you're more likely to get injured. Next, we're going to be moving on to the thoracic spine. So the first one for this, you can do a laying extension. So you're going to lay flat on the floor and you're going to bring the body up. You don't have to come far and you won't be able to move into a really big range with this. But as you come up, bring your arms back and squeeze your shoulder blades together. Slowly lower back down and repeat. The second for the thoracic is a seated side flexion. So this is trying to keep the lower back a bit more still, and you're going to focus on that side movement coming more from that thoracic spine and that upper back. Again, you can adjust weights for this in order to make this easier or harder. Next, we're going to move on to a rotation with a bit more focus towards the thoracic spine. This time you're going to be kneeling, again, to keep that lower back a bit more still and have it a bit more focused towards that upper back. Changing the weights again to make it easier or to make it harder. Finally is the neck, which is really important and something that nearly everyone is missing out working on. So the first thing for this can be a neck flexion, which is really getting the front of the muscle and the neck muscles working. A lot of the time, these will get a lot of work, especially the superficial neck muscles, like the sternocleidomastoid, when you're doing stuff like abs, because a lot of time you need a lot of that neck movement. So abs is a really good one to add in and will help with this neck strength. The main problem is that everyone is missing out on the extension strength of the neck. And these muscles are running all the way down into that thoracic spine as well. So a lot of time when these are weak, you can get pain in those areas, especially for people who are more sedentary, working in offices. This can have a much bigger effect. And really, if you are in that position, you want to be working on some strengthening around that neck area. So the extension come at a wide level of difficulties. Again, if you haven't done this at all, you want to start off easy and slowly build up. A good one to start with is in all fours, using a band and bringing that neck into extension while you're tucking that chin in. You want to repeat this for reps with a little hold at the top, and you really want to feel it working down the neck and into the upper back. Next from this, you can do it on a bench, so on an incline bench, just starting to lift the body off the bench. If that gets too easy, then you can start lifting the bum off the bench as well. To make this harder, you can start reducing the angle, making the bench flatter, until eventually you'll get to the flat position and you can start working on bridges. This is the ultimate exercise for neck extension strength. First off, start with doing reps until eventually you can work on a hold as well. Next is side flexions of the neck. One of the best ways to do this is just laying on your side, dropping the head down and then bringing it back up. You can also add rotation to this to add another movement element in. To make this harder, you can then start using a band, where you're going to be holding the band with your hand that's on the floor and bringing that neck up so you've got that added resistance. And what I'd suggest is to watch this video here if you're looking for how to do the hyperextension, which shows tweaks you can make and get the exercise more focused towards the lower back.